You had said that Canada should become the 51st state.
Yeah. No. Well, I still believe that, but you know, it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, you know, as a real estate developer, you know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, you know, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, you know, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership, and I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
That's true. And they have, I must say, Canada is stepping up the military participation because Mark knew, you know, they were low and now they're stepping it up, and that's a very important thing. But never say never.
Welcome to Eat the Narrative, the place where mainstream myths get shredded and the truth hits harder than a press release ever could. Let's get right into today's video. Even after his 51st state remarks directly boosted Mark Carney's victory in last month's Canadian election, Donald Trump is still clinging to this bizarre annexation dream. I swear, the most unimportant issues seem to take up the largest amount of real estate possible, not only in Donald Trump's head, but in every MAGA mind out there. Canada? We want that. Greenland? We need that. Gulf of Mexico? Oh my god, we need to rename that this instant. Hell yeah, America. Anyways, I digress. Trump's goal of annexing Canada completely backfired, helping the Liberals pull off a historic upset that political analysts are calling one of the greatest comebacks ever. Still, Trump refuses to back down. Even after Carney plainly told him Canada isn't for sale, Trump's response? Never say never. This is the same mindset that's led to over 24 credible allegations of sexual misconduct. The inability to grasp that no actually means no. Politically, it was disastrous. Trump's comments derailed Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's momentum and energized a wave of Canadian national pride, leading to a 15-point swing in the polls practically overnight. This single issue became a defining moment in the election, and Trump, once again, reminded Canadians why aligning with him is political suicide. And look, we don't need to state the obvious. Annexing Canada is unhinged. It's a sovereign nation that has its own democratic institutions, culture, and constitution. One more item on Trump's list that truly has nothing to do with helping our own citizens. But the real jaw-dropper here is Trump's refusal to learn from a clear political defeat. Instead of retreating, he's doubling down. Just hours after posting on Truth Social that America doesn't need anything from Canada. His words, we don't need their cars, we don't need their energy, we don't need their lumber, we don't need anything they have other than their friendship, which hopefully we will always maintain. Then he turns around and repeats the exact same line in person, much to all of our surprise, because this is an idea the likes of which nobody has ever seen before. I really can't believe this is a news story.
The campaign, Prime Minister Carney talked about the American vitriol. How do you react if Canada decided not to shop in the American store as much as before and decided to partner with other countries?
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%. And usually those things don't last very long. You know, we have great things, great product. The kind of product we sell, nobody else can sell. Including military. Look, we make the best military equipment in the world, and Canada buys our military equipment, which we appreciate. But we make the best military equipment in the world by far. The missiles, the the submarines, everything we have is really top.
Trump claims the U.S. doesn't do much business with Canada, which is a flat-out falsehood. Canada is the #1 export market for 36 American states. We get 60% of our crude oil imports and 85% of our electricity imports from Canada. Every day, 3.6 billion in goods and services cross that border. These are facts. But when you're untethered from facts, you can just invent your own version of reality. MAGA supporters won't believe that Canada is an important trading partner, but they will believe that hundreds of thousands of pounds of fentanyl are coming from Canada every year. And at the heart of Trump's thinking is this outdated belief that a trade deficit automatically equals losing. Canada exports more to us than we do to them, because quite simply, they have resources we need. It's basic economics. We're a much larger economy with 10 times the population, so we buy more. That's not a failure, it's a healthy exchange. A literal Google search will tell you that no, trade deficits are not inherently bad. A trade deficit simply means a country imports more goods and services than it exports. While this is often seen as negative, it can also reflect strong domestic demand, access to a wider range of goods, and even foreign investment that can stimulate the economy. All great things. Americans benefit by paying less for goods we use every day. But Trump, ever obsessed with the illusion of being taken advantage of, frames mutually beneficial trade as exploitation. If you actually do the math, Canada imports more from the United States on a per capita basis than the US imports from Canada. For their population size, they actually over-import compared to us. Coming from a guy notorious for stifling his contractors, the irony is thick. Now, because we're buying useful, affordable products from our closest ally, Trump wants to punish them. Does it make sense? Not at all. Will it lower costs for Americans? Absolutely not. But in Trump's logic, basic trade becomes some twisted form of subsidy.
Subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to take care of itself economically. I assume they can. I will tell you that Trudeau, when I spoke to him, I used to call him Governor Trudeau. I think that probably didn't help his election. But when I spoke to him, I said, so why are we taking your cars? Why are we taking we want to make them ourselves. I mean, I said, and if the price of your cars went up, or if we put a tariff on your cars of 25%, what would that mean to you? He said, that would mean the end of Canada. He actually said that to me. And I said, that's a strange answer, but I understand his answer. But no, I mean, it's hard to justify subsidizing Canada to the tune of maybe $200 billion a year. We protect Canada militarily, and we always will. We're going to, that's not a money thing. But we always will. But, it's not fair. But why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year, or whatever the number might be? It's a very substantial number. And it's hard for the American taxpayer to say, gee whiz, we love doing that.
Let's be clear. Buying Canadian goods, even if the trade balance tips their way, is not the same thing as handing out foreign aid. It's purchasing what we need and want. That's how markets work. You'd think someone who touts himself as a master of economics would get that. But then again, this is the same person who inherited a strong economy and managed to drive it toward recession in under 100 days. So here we are, pinning another pointless story to our country's headlines with MAGA supporters blindly believing every word that Trump touts about it. So let's recap. Trump handed victory to Canada's Liberal Party by obsessing over a fantasy that alienated voters. The new government won, in large part, by promising to stand up to him. And now, face to face with the very leader who beat him at the ballot box, Trump doubles down on the same failed idea. It would almost be laughable if it weren't so damaging to America's global credibility and economic interests. But this is just what happens when a leader prioritizes his ego over strategy. When you can't admit failure, you're doomed to keep repeating it. That's a wrap from Eat the Narrative, where truth isn't polished, it's weaponized. If you guys enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like, dropping a comment, and subscribing. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.